Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. Let's get back to work on the Ford Flivver. Got to change your plans. My plans today was to begin episode 3 of building the fuselage. And even though everything is done and properly fixed, and even I was able to, and I'll show you, I was able to re-slant this down. So I had to lower everything on that side because of the cockpit area. But as you can see, now at the top, they are even where they need to be matching up. So I don't know how well you can see that, but that's going to be the angle and that's how they're going to match up. So even though it looks goofy, there are some little wedges they're going to go in along the side from the rear part of the, there we go, a little turtle deck. And then they're going to taper down and go right alongside the vertical stabilizer. Once again, another piece that didn't come in the kit, but it's okay because it's just going to be regular square stock that I'm going to go ahead and make it work. So what I decided to do was, because I've got approximately 2.5 days of PTO before the end of the year, and then I got to get back to going back to work full-time, limited time to work in the shop. It gives me 2.5 days. I want to see if I can get that wing done. Because the problem you have is that you never put anything on the tail of the airplane until you get the wing mounted. Because last thing you want to do is glue in the H-stab, and it does not match the wing. Because you want those things kind of, running parallel. You don't want anything skewed. You can fly it with the tail a little bit skewed. And it will still fly. It's just the wrong way to do it. So let me go ahead. I'm going to take everything off the bench because what we're going to do is, let me reset the camera here. It's a jig that I've used for building big wings. Did it for, I built it pretty much for the Tailorcraft, because if you looked at those videos, I had to tear those wings to pieces, and I just needed to keep the actual root ribs square to the leading edge, because the original builder didn't, which was why I had to tear everything apart. So let me go ahead and show you approximately what we're going to do, because I can make it work. I just have to clean the bench and try to figure out how to put a little shim in there. It's a great big 90 degree. It's my big square. And yes, it is actually 90 degrees. It's true. And that's because the wings on the Tailorcraft are pretty big. 3rd scale Tailorcraft. Big wings. So let me just kind of focus you down here. These are the little pinholes for my extensions. I don't need to use the extensions on this because it's not that big of a wing and it's going to fit very nicely. But I'll be cleaning off the mess down here, cleaning off the mess down there. And I'll probably see, because I don't know, it's pretty close to 3/4 inch stock. So I know I've got some 3/4 inch plywood. I'll make something that's going to work, even if I have to use these same little pinholes down here. I'll make something so that way it can come on out, and then I can go ahead and just figure out how to attach it. It's not going to be that bad, just as long as if I've got it down here on the bench. So it's got a couple locating pins that are going to keep it from rotating. All I would need to do is just use a couple little screws just to go ahead and then fasten that thing down, just to whatever piece I'm going to have sitting on the workbench. So that's going to be my goal, is to see what I've got here, because I've got some pine over there, and I think that pine may work just fine. All I got to do is get my little battery powered circular saw and go ahead and put my little ripping gauge on there, and then just go ahead and cut off a piece that's going to be somewhere in the 3-foot range even, and that would be more than sufficient. That's just so when you're building, you're using that square as the square straight edge. So you'll notice that when I start doing the first ribs, they will be, because I'm not going to put the rounded nose on it yet, but all the squared off faces of those ribs, the nose, will go right up against that, so that you know that wing, when it's built, it's going to be nice and straight. So let me go ahead and get this stuff all cleaned off, get that pretty much the square mounted, and then let's build a wing. So if you all had been as much fun as I've been having, yeah, I don't think so. I've kind of jumped the gun, started putting some stuff together. Didn't bring you guys along for the beginning part of this ride, because it's an interesting ride. I'll take you off the stand, show you what I did to get this all set up. It was probably with researching everything and getting this little teeny thing set up on the deck, so that way I've got a big long, and it's not a long wing, but I've got my big square mounted to the work surface. So let me go ahead and take you off and show you kind of sort of some of the weird little quirks, and a lot of little pieces that I had to make are actually being used right now. Because yes, I did, some of that stuff was taken out of that kit, and it is, if I had hair to tear out, I'd have tore it out. Here's what I have gotten taken care of so far. Now, a couple little problems. If you see right there, down in the center, we've got a gap. And we've got a gap. This is how wonderful the kit is. If you bring the spars out from end to end and they don't match in the middle, the spars were cut a little too short. I didn't want to shorten the plans and just mess around with just trying to recut everything when you've already got measuring, where you can get measurements here. It's kind of lofting, you know, if you're building a boat, it's everything set up, you make it to piece size, and then you go install it. So yeah, all weird little changes. This was supposed to be balsa on the back, and because I do have some extra supply of quarter by quarter spruce, I'm going to go ahead, and I decided to have the spars spruce front and rear, and then the top spar is also going to be spruce. Just so I'm not going to, in my brain, I'm not going to have any issues. It's better to add that very little bit of extra weight on the trailing edge of the wing, just for peace of mind. So this is what I'm doing with this one. Now I've got to do the same thing on the top, because these things, wish it was long enough. I've got enough spruce. I got plenty of spruce here. I can go ahead, I can cut my own, but that's for building bigger planes. So right now I'm just going to take stuff I brought out of my little supply shop over there, and we'll bring these things up to the middle so that they will meet in the middle, and then I'll just go ahead and because we're going to be putting the spar webbing in, let's see, from these locations here that are all marked out, I'm going to do the same exact thing here. So this will be probably, instead of made out of balsa, this will be made out of plywood, some thinner plywood, just to guarantee that this stuff is not going to come apart. This, I will put a little filler in here, just because it's not going to be that big of a deal. So I'll just go ahead and put a filler in the middle, front and rear, before I go ahead and put the webbing in between. Now, in regards to the bell crank, I've done bell cranks before. Not a huge fan of it. You know, if you guys want to see me do a bell crank, it's fine. The problem is, where's the servo going to go? Because this is what's going to make it strange. The servo would have to sit right in here somewhere, but where exactly? How are we? It would be interesting, because what we've got stepping in on each side here, if we can look at it, this is where the landing gear is gonna, let's just call it the stabilizers for the landing gear. Landing gear is going out this way. You got a stabilizer ending here and a stabilizer ending down here. Now we can go ahead and put it here in the middle and try to run it down. I would just have to figure out how I would want to set that up. It would probably have to be like the servo itself. I just got to make sure I can get this right without tweaking too much stuff. Would have to go in somewhat like this, which is going to put it a little bit farther forward than you want it, but you could probably make it work. This is the whole problem with this set of plans, is it does not give you a designation of area of where that's going to go. I can go ahead and have a Y connector if I want to do just Y connector. I probably wouldn't. Now what I did do, even though I jumped the gun and these are all glued into position, these are not. So I can go ahead and get the holes all drilled in those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'll do that ahead of time. And I'll come through and I'll do the best I can to make sure that we've got something that's going to come all the way through to here. And then I can just enlarge the size of the holes. Once I get the hole drilled through it, pass through all the way to where I want to go, and then just enlarge these holes. So hopefully that'll make a little bit of sense on that. Now the other change I'm going to make is going to be the ailerons. What they show in the plans is they're showing you a bottom hinged. There's a reason why they don't do that on modern day aircraft. This is something that Ford did back then, but you're talking 1926 is when this thing was originally developed, a prototype. If you go with a lower hinge, what you're doing is it's going to throw in adverse yaw, and you're not going to get an axial rotation. Do I care about an axial rotation? No. But because this plane has got such a short fuselage and a pretty good sized wing for the fuselage itself, that adverse yaw can turn this thing into a potential handful. And I'm sure if you've talked to people that have built these things or have flown these things, they'll probably discuss the yaw. So I'm going to go ahead, flip this upside down, so we're going to be hinged at the top. So that way also when you're coming in for a landing, because you have a good laminar flow all the way down to the end of the aileron instead of right here, because that is where you're going to have the biggest problem. It's going to be laminar down to here, and then after this point it's going to be dirty air going across the aileron. So that's part of the problem with the adverse yaw. So let me go ahead, put this thing back up on the stand, and get a little more work done. All right, we have progressed a little farther along. Before I take you off the stand, it's been about 6 hours, and I've got in the wing to the point where I was going to get ready to start putting the rib caps on, as well as the sheeting on the center section of it. Now, this is what I kind of jumped into. Let's see how well this is going to work for us. This first one, hopefully you can see it, is pretty darn straight. So this one's good to go. Now for the other side, this one, I don't know how well you can see it. It's got quite a bit of curve to it, that way and that way. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna, because I had this one upside down, it was all soaked in with warm water and ammonia, and I just left it loaded like this, and I left it loaded overnight. So this one straightened out. This one got a little ways, but then it decided to spring back. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to go ahead and restart that again. If I have to make some little slits in on the front just to get it when these things are finally glued in, so it's straight, because I don't want this thing really trying to go against and trying to twist the wing up once it's glued into position. They are oversized, so yes, I know I can go ahead and take down whatever needs to be taken down with it once it's installed, but I want to try to get it as straight as possible before I do that. So now let me go ahead and take you off the stand, so I'll show you where the plane is at. The plane is at, the wing is at. So now let me go ahead and get you off the stand and show you where the wing's at. All right, we've got a lot of it done. What I decided to do on this one was I did spruce top, bottom on the spar, and I did spruce on the rear spar as well. The little bit of weight that it adds is going to be minuscule, so I am not concerned about that. I do have the landing gear, little pads put in, and not 100% happy with them, but it's going to work because they still have to be sanded once I get everything together. I don't know if I've got enough rib cap, so we're just going to get started, and if we don't have it, I've got some stuff inside there that I can just go ahead and just rip it myself, so I'm not concerned about that. I mean, I know it wasn't too much to look at, but it was quite a bit of work, and it's true. I mean, everything is squared true, so I'm very happy with where it's at right now. I'm very happy with that. I'm still missing a few pieces, and I've had to make a couple pieces. I had to make some new ribs, and it was just because I was missing ribs. So what I did when I went ahead and did it, I made one extra of each rib that I had to go ahead and recut, just in case one wasn't quite fitting right. I had another one to back it up. So seeing that all the ribs are in place, that little piece there, that's just gonna hit that brown can over there in the corner. And because I failed to show you, you can see all the little holes going through. So I don't want to upset people that want the bell crank in there, but this will not have the bell cranks in there. I've already got my servos all picked out and staged. They're over there. It's just some old not old servos. They're brand new servos, but they're older. I think it's 425Bs. Which is the ball bearings. Yeah. So it's a high-tech 425. We'll show you in the box. High-tech 425 ball bearing. Because I've been sitting on 4 of these things brand new in a box for gosh knows how many years now. So I figure it's a good time to use them on this plane. So the best thing to do today is let's just go ahead and call this a video. We're going to call it Building the Wing Part 1. And hopefully that's all going to work out just peachy. So I'll see you guys next time. I'm back in the shop.